yourself, but your ancestors are made. So in a sense, you try not to do them again. So I just wanted to go through. So thank you very much. That was my introduction, and thank you as well, guys, for giving me the opportunity to stand out and present in front of you guys. I love my culture. The Māori culture is very, very strong, very vibrant. But like I guess a lot of other indigenous cultures in the world, they've had their tough times in the past. Clashing of cultures, I guess, and it's probably very, very specific to the Aboriginal culture as well. Very, very similar story, although slightly different. Māori culture, we up until probably the mid 19th century, we were almost sort of wiped out. So for me to be able to stand here and to represent who we are as a people and a culture is extremely, extremely humbling for me, because I can talk till the cows come home about my culture. Anybody wants to ask me questions, I'll talk until, like I said, till the cows come home, because I feel very, very privileged that I'm actually here, and that some great people have gone before me that have done a lot of work to allow me this honour. So, into the fun stuff, I suppose. We all know, or we've all seen, I'm sure we've all seen the New Zealand All Blacks, the mighty New Zealand All Blacks, all conquering All Blacks, except in World Cup time, but all conquering All Blacks. But I've got a couple of Australian brother-in-laws, and the banter that goes on between us is fantastic. Thankfully, the All Blacks have had probably more of a winning history against them. For us, I would probably it'd be a different story. But come All Black versus Wallabies time, it's on. Like, he's no longer my brother for there in that 80 minutes. So we all know the rules. But All Blacks obviously made the haka, I guess, a worldwide sort of worldwide phenomenon for people to identify with. I just wanted to go through, I guess, the background behind the haka. My people were a very, very warrior type race, much to probably a little bit too fierce at times. And before the Europeans came to New Zealand, or Aotearoa we call it, we were fighting ourselves just as much as we ended up fighting the Europeans. But a haka. There is the All Black haka, which is kamate kamate, which means it is death. But each individual tribal area have their own haka. And haka can represent many things. It can represent honouring an ancestor, a past ancestor. It can be a chant to challenge a visiting group onto your marae, your area. But predominantly in the past, it was actually a war dance to intimidate your enemy before you go into battle. And so much, I guess, prowess and power was given to another tribe's haka, that if someone performed a haka that was just, you couldn't beat it, then that would actually, the other tribe would actually turn around and say, fair enough, man, you fellas too staunch for us, we're just going to go home. Sorry about that, sorry about disturbing your day. You guys go off and do what you did before. So that's the power and the privilege of being able to perform a haka is very important, because with Scrum-Nation, we've actually put together a haka as well for our boys to perform. And probably for us living, and we touched about it in the meeting earlier this morning, living in Australia, because this isn't actually our homeland, I suppose. We're representing, we're visitors here, so we're representing our culture, but in another person's land. Which is extremely important to acknowledge. That's why I did the ceremony I did before, because acknowledging those that have gone before us, whether they're my ancestors or your ancestors, it's polite, I suppose you could call it. Put a European word to it, polite. So I'm going to go through haka. Haka is like I said, it's a challenge, and we like to teach. We're putting our our boys through cultural learning sessions because, for them, the haka is just about, symbolically, it's just about the decisions that they make in their life as well. So haka can be a standing point where, I guess, in a team environment, you've got your boys that are lining up in the rugby, playing rugby. We're talking about rugby league. Then you Australians who don't know about that, we'll have another session about that later. Great game, great. Oh, both great games, But the haka is about unity, it's about support, it's about teamwork, and it's about standing up for not just yourself, but all those that have come before you, and all those that are standing up with you at that specific time. So, we've got a bit of a multicultural team at the moment. We've got Chinese, we've got Australian boys, we've got obviously a lot of Polynesians, but even within the Polynesian races themselves, the Tongans, Samoans, Māoris, they all have their own unique language and their own unique way of performing haka. So the challenge is there for us to actually put one together that they all feel comfortable with, and acknowledging that, with the haka, it's not just a Māori thing or a Tongan thing. I guess it's a human thing, because the values that you need to understand when you're performing a haka, they're human values. Teamwork, leadership, unity. Those aren't Polynesian things. Those are every living human being's things. So I'm going to go through a haka. Now I need to also just point out that there are some words in the Māori language that sound like rude words. The letters WH, when you put them together, they sound like an F. When you put WH and A and K and A together, they sound like an extremely rude word. WHAKA is pronounced whaka. And there's a lot of different WHA words in the Māori language. Unfortunately, there's a lot of words in the haka, and I suppose when you're standing there going, fuck off, and you're looking pretty angry, you're looking pretty pissed off. So for those people, I guess, that aren't familiar with those words, I'm not swearing at you. I'm merely representing my culture and all those people that come before. So I'm going to go through now. The first, I guess, the other thing that you'll see is, apart from orally, visually, a haka can be very, very intimidating. And we do that on purpose, because back in the old days, there weren't guns until the Europeans came along. And like I said before, there was a lot of prestige in place in a haka. So if it was a good haka, then you knew you couldn't beat it, then you'd go away. But we used a lot of hand weapons and a lot of natural sort of resources when you were fighting. But in the haka, you'll see if you've ever seen one on TV, there's a lot of eye movement, there's a lot of poking of tongues. And we call that pūkana. A pūkana is basically making the whites of your eyeballs visible. So basically poking your eyes out as much as you can. And the tongue gesture, if you see, actually there's a carving in the board room, the meeting room that we had, of and it looked Māori. I'm 100% sure it is Māori. And there is a carving in there with a Māori figure, and his tongue is poking out. And that's another gesture to say, eyes stinging out, the eyes are out, the tongue's out, you grimace. Because in the old days, there was a Māori god of war, his name was Tūmatawinga. And he was actually called Tūmatawinga, he was actually called Tū, the ugly one. And that was basically because when he went to war, he looked ugly. I suppose if you could corner, when you see someone doing a haka, they're supposed to look ugly because it's been said too much. So I'll just give you a quick background, I'll get into it. So, I told you I could keep talking later. How long have you guys got? Yeah, it's already been 15, 20 minutes these checkers. So I'm going to go through a haka, I'll warm up, and then hopefully you appreciate it, hopefully you like it. If you're scared, then I'm probably doing my job right. I guess if you can think for yourself in a place where, if you multiply me by 10 or 20 or 30, And, you know, there's only